How are
Hey,
you? Hey, Internet. Hopefully, everybody can hear us. Welcome to the game. It's a tabletop talk show. Uh-oh, there's an echo. Let me deal with that real quick.
okay, well, welcome to Dungeon Studios, the game, a tabletop discussion podcast. Um, we have
Is that
Giddes
better?
running the board. She actually rolled a one tonight. Do you want to try to restart, or are we still going here?
You sound good to
Amber,
me. Do I
okay,
sound okay?
you sound good to me, but Josh is saying we don't sound good on the live feed.
All right.
Um,
We're
how we
hearing.
sounded, Josh, to you now?
The... All right. Yeah, it looks
All
like
right.
chat says we can be heard. All right.
And Josh, I got to mute you. You got some sound coming in on me too. All right, welcome everybody. You rolled a one on that one, but
I sure did.
I am still very impressed. Everyone, this is Giddes behind the board now. Usually it's Merwin being all grumpy and saying something about the show, but of course this is a game about role playing, so you rolled really low
Just consider
on
me
that one.
a level 1 podcaster.
That's okay. That's okay. You volunteered to take on the audio, and I appreciate that greatly. Without that, we would not have a show. So thank you very much, Gittes, for keeping the game rolling. We
Thank
all
you. Thank
appreciate that.
you. All right. So, like we said, hello, Internet, and welcome to the game. We are a tabletop talk show and podcast brought to you by Dungeon Studios. I am Giddes, as Doc had introduced me, and he is the ever illustrious co host, Dr.Pletorius.
Hey everybody, what's up?
Hey,
And it's almost
everybody.
time for my blood, my transfusion tomorrow. So if you lose me tonight, it'll
All
be all
right.
right. I'm
Well,
hanging in there.
we know why then.
All right, I'm a little bit like a vampire.
Well, it is late night over there, so you should be good,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
All
As I
right.
said, you got a late start on me, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
All right. So we're going to move straight on into the things we hate, the shit we hate, shit I hate. It's probably gone through various iterations over the last 25, 26 episodes, I think, that we've been here. Uh,
Yeah.
but this may possibly be the last time that we do shit we hate, things we hate, stuff we hate, because our viewers, at least, will notice that we are short one cast member tonight. Grom, our ever illustrious Grom, has had to step away from the show for reasons outside of our control. And rather than tell you all the real reason why he's not here with us tonight, we figured it'd be more enjoyable for us and for you, the chat. Uh-oh, why am I hearing music? Is the show hearing music? Is it just me?
I don't hear music.
Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Maybe just you.
Hey, hello from the Philippines. Did you see that? We have someone from the Philippines watching us.
Well, I know I had some folks from the Monster Fights from the
Oh,
Philippines too. So we have some artists. We have an artist from the Philippines on Dungeon
awesome.
Studios. Yeah, yeah. I can't see the stream. It's very tiny to
Yeah.
figure out. Like I said, you're level one
Podcaster. We'll get better.
podcaster. So my monitor of the chat right now is a little limited.
All
But
right.
it's no
So yeah, I
shit
wanted
we
to get
hate,
back to so
things we
instead of
hate, shit I
us
hate.
telling you the real reason why he's not here, we're going to leave it up to you guys, the chat, and we're going to come up with some wrong answers only for why he's not here with us today. So I'm going to start. If you've listened to the show enough, I think that Wizards of the Coast finally got tired of him shitting on them, and they had him kidnapped. What do you think, Doc?
It's definitely possible. I mean, he does shit on them a lot. He hates them for many reasons. It's definitely true.
Yeah. Do you
Uh,
have
I
any?
actually, I have to go with the Ancient Society of Gnomes. Put a hit out on him, because he's been
He hates
bashing.
them.
He's been known bashing for a long time. Wizards is trying to launch. They're trying to bury the halfling and bring the gnome back. So that could definitely be it. Absolutely,
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
Uh,
You having any other good theories?
well, I have heard from the previous podcast and when I joined the show that he is a big Magic the Gathering fan, or he is a semi-pro player is what I believe he
He
said.
was big into it. Yeah, he was
Right.
really, really into it.
So I think he got discovered by an agent, and he is now on tour playing Magic the Gathering. He's probably living his best life.
He's living his best life playing Magic. I like that.
Yeah.
I really, really like that one. Now, there's one other one that is that he's actually been kidnapped by the government and the dudes in the black suits, because we always talk about the government shutting down the show.
Oh, no.
And that maybe he really uncovered something, you know.
Oh, he was onto
our
something.
symbol is not, you know, the eye for nothing, you know.
Yeah.
It's not the eye for nothing. So you never know.
Yep.
You never know. But dearly, dearly missed. You know, we had our last episode was campaign endings. So
Yeah.
Grom, to you out there, we love you. Anytime.
We're gonna miss the grumpiness. I'm sure there is all of you in the chat. If you missed the grumpiness, just we all need to kind of knock up the grumpiness a little bit here to fill that gap. So
please, if you think they need to die, please let us know, because we don't have Grom here to keep us grounded in death.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I see in the chat someone came up with he was charmed by a beautiful maiden.
Ooh.
Yeah, something against the grumpiness. Okay. You know, some maidens go for that.
No, that's true. You know, I'm thinking about, I was in Disney World when they used to have that. Did you ever play that thing at Disney when they had the magic cards?
What?
Did you ever know about this?
Disneyland?
At Disney World.
Disney World. No, sorry. I've never been to Disney World.
Oh my gosh, it's this really cool thing. It's gone now. We had these cards, and you go up to secret locations, and you would hold the cards up to the windows, and you get like this protection, and they would cast different spells. You were a magic user.
Okay.
And you go to Jungle Land, and I could not get past the jackals from Jungle Book. And I realized I had to charm them.
Oh.
That was the only way. You couldn't fight past them. You had to charm them. And and whoever said that about Grom, charming Grom, with the failed save is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. And then I had one other idea because of the Magic the Gathering. We were talking about rare cards. And I think he may have gotten involved with a rare card smuggling ring.
Ooh.
And so he has to kind of be on the down low, or maybe he's overseas, like that's where you get the good stuff.
You did just get a message from the Philippines.
We never did. Know what's going on. If you see Grom over there, give him some good cards. Oh, that is so funny.
Oh yeah, I do miss him. It's like he carried the show for half a year, so I have to say a big thank you to Grom too, and Dungeon Studios. Say thank you to Grom out there for getting this launched off.
Yes,
as it has. So
someone else said that someone gave him a Snickers and he turned into someone else. Are you secretly Grom in a nice disguise?
Oh, that's good too. That's very good. That's
funny.
Very good.
I love these. Keep them coming, chat. All right. So as we are moving on, I think we may change the title of this. Let us know if you have a better title. But it was Shit I Forgot. We may be calling it something else. Right now, I'm calling it Housekeeping, but I'm not really on board with that name. So, if we think of a better name for this segment, that would be great.
Yeah, it's kind of this is like rules as written. I don't know. We're talking about kind of. All right, go ahead. What do you have to tell? Tell us what you have to tell us.
I mean, basically, this whole segment is, anything that throughout the last podcast that we realized, we wanted to say that didn't, or a clarification, or So it could be rules lawyer. I don't know. Yeah, we'll workshop that. But all right, so a couple of things that.
So last week we were talking about campaign endings, and you saw something on Twitter.
Yes,
you saw something on Twitter about.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay,
what did you say?
So the main focus of our campaign endings podcast was we were talking about how to kind of plot out the campaign, right? So that you can get to the end. What we didn't cover, because it was covered in a podcast you and Grom did, was like what to do if your game fizzles out, right? And
Right.
some of the feedback I had gotten from the internet, because I like to go out on the interwebs and kind of ask people, poll people, get some information for the podcast. And a lot of people were saying, oh, my games don't fizzle out because we do this or we do this, tips, right? And I saw this on Twitter and I really, really liked it. So I'm going to share this with you. Just in a Revolution on Twitter, at Justin A Revolution, said, start every campaign as a one-shot. Think of it as a TV show pilot. Forget big, long campaign plans and world building. If players like it, then pick it up for a number of seasons. Remember to end the series before you jump the shark. That last point, I really liked it. It hit home for me because I think that's an analogy that people can really grab onto. And I know that there are a lot of campaigns that I think possibly fizzle out because it's just maybe going on and on. There's no point. It doesn't feel like you're getting to the end, or, maybe you do need to cut out before you jump the shark.
You know what, though? I think it's interesting that they said that. I think this is a really great statement about not jumping the shark. And of course, being the keeper of time, you know where that comes from, right? Jumping the shark?
No. Oh, am I going to get a history lesson?
You have to. I mean, if you don't know where jumping the shark comes from, it's very important that you know where jumping the shark comes from. There was a popular show called Happy Days.
Okay.
Do you know that show?
Oh, yes. I know that show.
Okay,
yes.
Monday, okay.
Hey.
Well, the Fonz is like the cool guy, right?
Uh-huh.
And in the show was struggling for ratings. And sure enough, they had an episode where the Fonz was going to water ski and jump a shark.
Oh, okay.
And the show tanked. And then the show was canceled. And thus we have the term jump the shark has become part of media culture for something, ending badly.
That is wild.
So it's kind of, when you hear that term, the same thing, like the writers, think about 70s sitcoms. You're writing episode after episode and you've never really written a conclusion, right?
Uh-huh.
So that becomes an issue. Are you getting neurotic and trying to move me?
Nope. Just trying to fix something. There we go. There was a banner at the top of our page that was hiding.
So I think that's kind of important to understand too. I like that. Make a TV show pilot, a one shot, see how it tests, and then run with it. That's a great plan. And then knowing when to bail before you jump the shark is still quite tricky.
Yeah,
that's still tricky. Like, I'm sure the network people at the time thought, "Hey, man, the Fonz is going to jump a shark. This is going to be great." They might have even been riding the coattails of Jaws, the movie, at the time. And then remember, sci-fi TV was taking off because Star Wars hit the scene, right? Okay.
Star Wars, Star Trek. Yep. All right. Well,
So
I just
very
thought that was
good.
really interesting, so I wanted to share that because I figured that was really relatable for folks.
All right. And then the next one I want to talk about is this Creator Summit. I know you want to talk about it more. They said that Eldritch Blast is now going to be a Warlock feature instead of a spell. I sort of have this really problem with Eldritch Blast.
Yeah.
Why don't Eldritch Knights get Eldritch Blast? Like,
I've never played an Eldritch Knight, so I don't know. I mean, but are they the same like base stats as the Warlock, just meant to be more melee?
I think it's meant to be sort of like a sorcerer fighter.
Okay.
One of the things about 5e is they made all these combinations, and then people go ahead and multi-class anyway. Like you're going to be an Eldritch Knight and multi-class and sorcerer, so you can try to get more spells or whatever. And that's what ends up happening. You have to multi-class to get Eldritch Blast for an Eldritch Knight, which, why name it Eldritch if an Eldritch Knight can't have it? I mean, that just seems, I think I've talked about that before. Anyway.
I didn't really have a lot to talk about other than that was, for that point, that was more of a clarification because we had brought it up That was, no, you know what? That might have been, when did we talk about the Creator Summit? Yeah, that was last session, right?
Yeah, and I know there were some more
There were some
videos on it.
questions
There were
about
some
the
more YouTube
warlock.
videos about it this week, but like I said, I don't think that's that big
Yeah.
anyway.
No, that was just more of a clarification because we were trying
Now
to
this
figure out it was a spell, it was a cantrip. What is it going to be now? They said it's going to be a feature. So,
now this one you're going to put me in my place, so go for it. I like this one.
so we were talking about Easter eggs, and you and Grob were very adamant that the earliest known video game to have an Easter egg was Adventure. And I think in the chat there were a lot of folks that agreed. What I found out, because I did my research, because I'm curious, I found out that it is not. That the first video game to have a Easter egg is Moonlander in 1973. And the Easter egg, the game is that you, as the player, try to land a spaceship on the moon. And if you fly horizontally enough, then you encounter, this is what I'm reading. I have never experienced this in my life. But if you fly horizontally enough, you encounter a McDonald's restaurant. And if you land next to it, an astronaut will visit it instead of standing next to the ship. So I wanted to bring that up in case anybody in the chat had heard about that, or if you had heard about that, because apparently Adventure is often mistaken as the first video game with an Easter egg.
Okay, I do have this to say to you, okay? Yeah. Because it comes from, and you and I were talking about this already, the game Lunar Lander, which was an old 101 basic computer game written in basic computer language when I first took computing. So yes, I have experienced
You did
flying the moon lander to McDonald's. But like, gosh, it was so far back in my memory banks. And I think the other thing that makes it different is the exposure to pop culture.
Right.
When you talk about this game written in 1973, this game, I did not see this game on floppy disk, probably mass marketed till 1979 at my friend's house who went to a special junior high school where the kids got TRS 80s at their houses so they could come home and do their word processing at home with their floppy disks. So I was able to get exposure to that whole, and that's where I actually played Moonlander. So Billy Mahoney, if you're out there, buddy, woo, we're back again. We're back again. Woo, that goes way, way back.
Right. It was probably the popularity, right? So everybody saw Adventure first, or saw the Easter egg in Adventure first, but really, yeah.
And again, we were talking in our discussion, I don't think the dot in Adventure was termed an Easter egg either, for many years later, and then pointing back. So pointing back, it is a McDonald's in Lunar Lander. Yeah. And I'm gonna bet there's even more. There's a lot about Microsoft and stuff that are hiding, but I digress.
As we are wont to do. All right. So the last little bit, not a major piece of news, but we talked about Critical Role's podcast that they picked up called Midst, or it's more like an audio drama, visual drama. I did finally give it the first episode a listen, although I will admit I was very busy. So it was more like, if you glance words when you're in a hurry, I was just listening / watching with like part of my attention. So I can't really give a good critique on it other than the narration is very interesting, and it really reminded me a lot of if you ever listen to the Serial podcast. Very kind of facts provided by a narrator in such a way that it kind of causes this mystery that you want to solve. It also kind of reminded me of our Dark Mysteries, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because you're listening and you can almost see the mystery unfold. And then you begin questioning, okay, well, what is happening here really? And you want to listen further because you're just so entranced by this strange thing that's happening.
The Fables from the Forgotten that they're also working on. The voice actors here at Dungeon Studios are also like that.
Yeah.
Where you start hearing a story and you're like, okay, what point of view am I? Where am I?
Yeah.
So both Dark Mysteries and Fables from the Forgotten both kind of are on that genre.
The
Well, you know,
genre of
they stole
mystery.
that from us. See, everyone steals everything from Dungeon Studios.
Right.
It's the little creators, and they find it and then they steal it. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
We have good
So I tell
ideas,
Grom all the
folks.
time.
Yeah.
So I tell Grom all the time. You know, we're the ones that have been here every week saying this stuff out loud, and everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh man, I could just talk forever on like things that I feel like I invented that I didn't.
So let's move into the nerd news then,
Yeah,
because
all right.
we got it looks like you have a lot of notes here, man. You did a lot of nerd news here. I only have one thing to pick up.
Okay, so
Oof.
you know, knowing that Grom wasn't going to be with us, I was a little worried. I figured I'd over prepare, and we could just cut stuff out. If we start talking too long, I can just remove it, throw it away.
So
remove
what's this
it.
about? What's this about Pathfinder? What's going on here? They're
So if you were following the OGL nonsense, right, which is what I think we've been calling it, then Pathfinder had announced that they were going to be working on what they call the ORC, the ORC, their open creative license, right?
Right.
So there was an announcement this week that they released their first draft of this creative license, and there's a link. If you search, you can go and look at it, and I think you have up until like April 21st to provide feedback on it.
Hey, it's my birthday.
Oh, is it? Hey, happy early birthday.
Woo-hoo.
So
all right, go ahead.
So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting that, they're working on it collaboratively. They're sharing it for people to provide feedback on. And yeah, I just think that's great. I really am interested in the way that they're going about this because of the fact that they're registering it to this Library of Congress, so that it kind of prevents that situation that happened with the OGL.
Right. And I see they're also licensing some adventures for a reasonable price.
Oh, yes.
That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, they just put out a new adventure, which they announced. It's supposed to be for beginners, like to try to get beginners into Pathfinder, which obviously the timing is good, right? So it makes sense. So for $24.99, it's called Pathfinder Adventure.
Hey, we don't need to promote them.
No, you're right. We don't have to promote them, but I just
go on. There's too many notes here. Let's go down to the next one.
All right.
That's great for them. Yeah, new game. Hooray.
So,
all right,
and then they're also coming out with 2 video games, which I thought was interesting. One's going to be on Steam.
They got to crisscross into that market,
right?
Now,
so they got to cross market. So they announced that they're putting out 2 video games. One will come out soon. The other one is still in development. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. They put out a lot of stuff this week, so I wanted to make sure we touched on that.
That says Arby's. You're talking about the fast food restaurant Arby's?
Yes. Okay. All right. So
Arby's,
you're going ahead. I didn't bring up Arby's yet.
No, I keep pushing us forward. Arby's, the restaurant. What about this Arby's thing?
Okay.
Tell us.
Wait. Now, where you live, do you have Arby's? Because maybe not everybody knows what Arby's is.
Yeah, I have Arby's.
Okay.
But they're mostly like drive-throughs combined with like other restaurants. So I'm intrigued, and I haven't seen any advertising because I am a true nerd and don't have real media exposure. So go ahead.
All right. So apparently someone in our chat knows what Arby's is because they got the dice meats is what he's saying. And also he's asking about Enron stuff, which we will tell you in just a bit. But Arby's, if you don't know what it is for where you're at, I don't know, those in the Philippines, I've been to the Philippines. I'm from the Philippines. I cannot remember seeing an Arby's there. So hopefully you know what it is. But it is like a roast beef sandwich kind of place is what they're known for. Their tagline is, "We've got the meats," because it's all heavily meated sandwiches.
Gosh, man, she's got so many people that could be paying us for advertisers, Merwin, if you're listening out there. Shit. Go ahead.
When I could eat gluten, I loved Arby's. It was like my guilty pleasure because it was so disgusting but so good. And apparently they did this, I guess back in 21, they put out dice. D&D dice, set,
Right.
poly, and they were clear with the Arby's hat inside of them. And I, being a dice goblin,
You
would
have them.
no, I wish I did. I didn't know that
Okay.
they did this back in
Oh,
2021. But
okay.
today they announced it. And last year when they did this, they sold out in hours, like 2 hours. They were sold out. So today they announced it. It's probably too late for you folks today. You could check your Arby's. They might be sold out.
Stop promoting them. Just give the date.
It's the dice. But so they're doing it again on April 21st. So if you want these
birthday,
Arby's dice
see?
on
My
your
birthday.
birthday, go. Okay, maybe you go because I don't have any Arby's around me. Go to Arby's, get me some dice. I will pay you double. Okay, I want these dice.
Oh my gosh. I will see if I can find you Arby's dice, but I haven't seen it, heard anything about it. But yeah, now you just gave out the secret. Like, what are you doing? You should just message me that. You don't put that on the nerd news.
Well, but nerds might
You
want
are
it.
not- No, nerds keep stuff on the down low first. Then we say, hey, look at the dice we got from Arby's. Oh my God.
I am a
Merwin
generous
now.
nerd.
I
You
am
are.
turning into the grump. Jesus
I'm
Christ.
a generous nerd. I share the wealth. Okay.
Oh boy. What's this next thing here you have here? More Critical Role?
Yeah, more Critical Role stuff. I'm sorry, but
You're promoting these guys too much.
no,
way too
no,
much.
no. I just
I
thought if
really
any,
think
we
what's
have
interesting
fans
is the
who
next
like.
story. I think the next story is really more interesting. So the live action
We can move
Dungeons
on.
and Dragons series with Dave, I'm going to say his name wrong, Crivello as the showrunner,
Mhm.
I think is great. And everything I'm reading about E1 and moving Dungeons and Dragons forward on Paramount Plus, hats off. And I've been watching Doom Patrol, and I'm realizing now that that was Paramount Plus. So if it's on Paramount Plus, it's all systems are go. And then reading that they're just ready to sell E1. It's got legs.
They're going to sell E1?
Yes. E1 is ready for sale.
Okay.
Yeah. A1 is packaged and ready to go. And you know where it's going. We've been hinting at this in the game for a long time. If you have not been listening, it's after C, but before E. And I don't know why they like using why'd they use an addition sign and not a multiplication sign? I don't know. But anyway, because I realized that too, Doom Patrol is the forerunner to all that Marvel She-Hulk and Vision, WandaVision, that whole retro superhero thing going on. But anyway, Dave Carell taking over the live action Dungeons & Dragons series. Awesome.
Yeah, you know what I like about that is I didn't realize that this guy is the producer for Deadpool. So, and Deadpool is a fantastic IP. I mean, they do it really well. So, hoping that if they're taking over this Dungeons and Dragons series, that it's just going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me how far Deadpool has come, because when that first hit the comic scene, oh my gosh. That was a big deal. But anyway, I digress once again. Minecraft Legends is coming tomorrow. Is that the D&D?
I was going to ask you because I tried watching a trailer for it, but again, super swamped. So it was a half listening. I think it might be.
Yeah. It's the crossover IPs are all being released right now.
Right.
And we've been talking about this for weeks and weeks. Again, that's why I don't want to promote any of their crap, because you need to go to dungeonstudios.co and check out all our adventures. We'll go back to that in a second.
Actually, are we? Because I was going to say maybe now is a good time for you to tell everybody about the world of Eneron. We have some chat asking.
Oh, no, let's finish up your stories here. Go ahead. You finish up your stories here.
Well, I only had one other thing.
Go ahead.
As I believe it came out last podcast, I am a very big horror fan. And the Evil Dead franchise is wonderful, right? It is the top horror selling. Yeah. Well, so the Evil Dead Rise is coming out on April 21st, your birthday. Everything's happening on your birthday.
It's a great day, man. It's a great day.
And so I heard through some news sources that there is a possible cameo from Bruce Campbell, which I find interesting because he officially retired that character, Ash, back in 2018.
Okay.
So for him to do even a cameo is kind of like big news for the fans that love this franchise. But all the news sources I've read said that this cameo is like a blink and you'll miss it. So for all of us nerds that love to find those Easter eggs, I figure if you're going to be watching Evil Dead Rise, you're going to watch for that blink or you'll miss it moment to see if you can find him. But yeah, even the actor Bruce Campbell has not confirmed or denied if that's the case. So this could be rumor. I could be lying.
When
I'm
does Evil
excited.
Dead jump the shark? When does Evil Dead jump the shark?
When the fans are tired of it, which will be never.
Never. Once you hit video game, and I just think about the first one, the first Evil Dead, and I read a thing about the first cast.
Yeah.
They slept in the cabin.
Yes, that's right.
For the filming. That's so cool. I think that's so cool.
I would. Oh my god, I would love it. It's a shame that I think the cabin isn't there anymore. Is what I had heard. And
I don't know about that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All
Oh
right,
boy,
all
now
right.
I'll have to dig into that for the stuff I forgot. Housekeeping, whatever we're gonna call it next week. But yeah, I'll look into that because I think I heard that cabin is no longer there. It got torn down after Evil Dead 2, I believe. Somebody correct me in chat if I'm wrong. And I think they had to rebuild it for like any other movies or things where they've used that set. But the original house.
All right, so I'm ready for the Enron pitch, right? Is that
Yeah.
you're ready for that in Dungeon Studios? Okay, so
All right, chat, hold on to your seats.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say Dungeon Studios, we are work live out of Facebook, obviously, right now, trying to work up that live feed that we can get, and we're trying to get our followers. So if you're out there following us and you have friends or a group of D&D players, get them to follow us too, man. We want to smash that follow button on Facebook, hit that 1,000 followers, and that sort of makes things easier for us. I watch these videos with my kids all the time, and you see the people promoting there. Please hit the button. Please hit the button. If you're listening to us or like us on anything, do that. That really helps us out. Make comments. I'm always around. We pitched tonight's episode about Druids, and we had so much feedback. And I tried to get back to everybody, comment, thumbs up. So thank you. Dungeon Studios is developing a really cool, richly developed world with new playable species, classes, and backgrounds. Okay. They're unique to the setting. Now, the world is set up on a planet where something has crashed into it. The impact has caused the Earth to shatter, or the planet to shatter, forming new land masses. We have some floating land masses, and there's a great rifts which cause runes or wounds in the ground and the planet, and wild magic ore has been exposed. Think of like, the Earth's core is wild magic, and you can actually get this stuff. And that's caused all sorts of different effects and species to be changed, wild magic storms and all kinds of effects. The world has calmed down and returning to, playable D&D 5e rule set. Technology sort of incorporated in, giving it like sort of a steampunk flair. And right now we have a volume 1 set of adventures that was already backed by Kickstarter, which is out and available on dungeonstudios.co. I'm not going to go into all of them. They're really cool.
Yeah, check out the website. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. And then you see our Eneron and non-Eneron adventures that are available as well. Also pitch my own monster book. I took the old ancient cartographer monsters that are free use, and I gave them all stats. So if your players are on a seafaring adventure and they ever go off the map, I got the monsters for you. Check them out at dungeonstudios.co. And our volume 2 adventures, we're getting them out to our patrons for our second Kickstarter. We're also working on volume 3 adventures, all set in this world of Eneron with some new monsters, new items, and of course, crisscrossing into D&D 5e content that's accessible. We also have a Discord. If you want to join us there, it's open to the public. We're always looking for test players, artists, writers, voice actors. I'd love to meet a map cartographer or someone who does
Ooh.
isometric sketching. We could really use an isometric sketcher, man. And the one thing I want to say about Dungeon Studios, I've been there for a year and a half now. I know Merwin's left us. You've joined us just recently, taking on the Enron Chronicle. People here, Merwin was doing this and that. It's really an opportunity if you are a fan of TTRPGs and you want to become a creator. We always talk about creator versus consumer. Dungeon Studios is a great place for you to get a start. We have a lot of friendly and great people here that are open and want to get you started on the path. So give us a shout. All right. Again, smash us on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you listen, watch. Hey, come join us on Discord. I'm always there. I love doing DM advice for people. I've pitched some pretty cool things that people come into the chat with, and then we never see them again. It's so sad. Social media is about being social. So if you're out there, comment, thumbs up, smile. I don't even care if you're angry about what we post. Please be angry.
Yeah. Engage.
That helps us. Engage. That's what really helps us out there.
Yeah. And then are we still looking for play testers?
Always. We're looking for community. Our CEO Josh just put out a call for just a Wednesday night campaign to start running a campaign. We have 2 test DMs that are like waiting to run games on weekends and no one's showing up. I was running Friday mid-afternoon games, East Coast time. You weren't able to come anymore. So we sort of shut that one down. I know Anubis, one of our writer DMs, is trying to run monster fights 12 noons on Saturday. We talk about having a D&D community. We have a billion people on our Discord, but nobody's showing up. We're active. We have 25 episodes of this podcast. We're doing YouTube shows. You want to be involved? This is the place.
Yeah.
That's all we got to say. We're active and we enjoy creating. So come join us.
Yeah, we basically we've got our hands out like, come on, talk to us, hang out with us. Yeah. We're just waiting for you. Maybe we're coming off a little too desperate for those people.
No. And I think a lot of people that listen to the show know that I am, because of my disability, I am in a dungeon. I live in this room with an air filter. Mm-hmm. I've met a lot of people over the last 2 years at Dungeon Studios that are great friends of mine, just like Merwin leaving now. He's still a great friend of mine. We're still talking. And how's your wife? How's your kid? So to me, it's part of my everyday existence now. So I'm sorry if I promote it that way, but hey, that's the way. It's like a family to me.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's where people feel welcome, right? Well, I guess it depends on how you feel about your family, but.
Well, and that's it too. I always have time for my family all the time. I talk, hey, there we go. That's why the mug is Papa of the Year, baby. Mm-hmm. There's always a priority. So that's the shameless plug. That was pretty long. Hopefully
that was
I didn't go
great.
Did I go too far?
No, I think you went just right.
All right, cool.
All right. So it looks like you have something you want to talk about for our
Oh, yeah. I forgot. For
still
news,
part of Nerd News, yeah.
Yeah. I just read this too. Like I said, I'm pretty active on Facebook and trying to get around to all the different sites. And I saw Luke Gygax just shared. He wants prayers and best wishes. He is heading back to Wisconsin to a trial to establish that the will discovered researching his dad's IP is a valid last will and testament. Guess this has been going on for 3 years. He's taken on all the financial costs. And really, to him, this is not about the money, because I guess there's 6 children, that this estate would be going to, over 50K. But for him, it's really about finding the truth and, kind of honoring his dad's final wishes. And really, it's him and his wife. We talk about family. So I really appreciate, he always is talking about his family and what's going on. They're really just fighting it, even though they're taking on the financial risk to their family and everything for the sense of justice. So hats off to them. Yeah. I've talked about on this show how the whole thing has been a ripoff. Who's owned what first, where, when, why, how. I hope they can just put this to rest.
Yeah.
I don't foresee either outcome as good or bad. That's the other thing, Luke, before I say anything. Josh has also mentioned that Luke may actually be able to join us on the game
Really?
one night. Yeah,
That would be
he's
awesome.
on he's on our short list to be joining us. I don't know about the outcome because I want to say I don't know enough about the whole situation, but if you're out there and that's real news, I feel like it's kind of no one's doing a YouTube story about it. How about that?
Yeah, that's probably why I was surprised when you wanted to add that. I hadn't heard anything about this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
that's,
like I said, I'm a super nerd. Super
yeah.
nerds find weird stuff in weird places. And I think,
Don't we all?
next week, that'll be someone will be doing YouTube story about Luke. And it's not because we did it first. I
Yeah.
just saw it and we came on. Okay. How about your week in games? Because you know what? I did not play this week. We took a week off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did not play, and we're coming back to Mask of the Red Death um, this Thursday is the plan. So, what did you have this week for games?
Oh man. Wait, I got to ask. So no, not even any kind of planning done. I know you were talking with that one gal about like what's going to be for the next campaign. None of that
No,
conversation.
no, no. No, because I guess when we sat down the last time we played, I had asked her again, like I said, and I just kind of left that on the side burner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be making a backup character for Red Death because Red Death is more of a dungeon crawl. You're going to be dead in the next second, which I have not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was busy at Dungeon Studios actually doing some homebrew.
Yeah.
I got deep in some homebrew, and then you threw me some more
Edits.
corrections
Yeah.
came at me,
That's my
which
fault. I'm
which
sorry.
and no, that wasn't your fault. That goes back to the guy who didn't proof from when he was proofing. If you
Ah.
think about it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not a proofer. I always need a proofer. I've
Yeah.
always said that.
I
But
just happen to
anyway,
be a little bit of a nitpicky grammar Nazi, so which everyone here will learn.
so we did have a game this Wednesday
Oh, the
at
Dungeon
Dungeon
Studios.
Studio.
Yes. Do
Yeah,
you know anything about
I
that?
did not listen in. I didn't peek. It was a zero. They were getting set up.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know that it's kind of neat because a whole bunch of people discovered that Enron characters are on D&D Beyond, so you can
Yes.
actually go into the builder and use them and that kind of stuff. So I don't know how much longer that's actually going to be available. I don't want to talk about that. How was your week in games? What did you do? Tell us, because
Oh
yours always
man.
cut and dry. Go.
No, but it's not. Yeah, it's going to be really short this week. So, same thing. Both of the games, the game that I play in and the game that I run, they're both monthly, and neither of them have happened in this last week. So I have nothing to report there other than that I am in the planning stages for the next session. We already played like 2 weeks ago. And we're going to be
Okay.
playing again before the end of April. So that's unusual for us. I usually have a whole month to plan. So with everything being really busy, I'm kind of like, I don't want to say I'm strapped. I'm just there. Last I left off, they're inside the dragon turtle and they found the place where the book is. And I'm trying to create some kind of a challenge for them to find this book. And they are pretty high level. They're high level
Okay.
relative. They're, I think, level 14 right now. If any of them are in the chat, they can correct me. But I think they're level 14 right now. So I've noticed anyway that I have to really scale up my challenges for them because they somehow just kind of knock things out of the park and make things look too easy. So it's taken me a long time to figure out that I really need to kick things up an extra notch, and then
Right.
at the last minute if I need to scale back I can, but that's a lot easier to do. So that's where I'm at, is the challenge is finding a book. How do I make this very difficult for them with the
Well,
risk of them not finding it?
the one thing I really like is that if you set up something more narrative,
Mm-hmm.
so let's say you tell the players you need to now come up with 3 skill checks
Mm-hmm.
or some combination of skill checks to discover something about this book, and they have to each feed you back something that involves more than one skill check.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a bard has to come back and say, "I'm going to use persuasion and something else and do this."
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt like that's kind of a cool way for them, one, to feel like they're super involved. Now everyone says, "Oh, well, what if they roll low or roll a one?" That just changes the narrative to them not doing it well or doing it poorly, or you can laugh about it because they fall on their face.
Yeah.
And I found that those things really, really work kind of cool if they are designed specifically for the situation. Um, and again, I don't want to give away any spoils for your specific situation, if
Oh, well,
that makes
that's why. I
sense.
mean, you can make up all that you want. Trust me, they won't know where I'm going to go with this because I can see my husband's in the chat. He confirmed they're level 14.
Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to think. I was in a test play where we were in a chase, and the chase was away from these were rats. Like, we were completely outnumbered from were rats.
Okay.
Um, and we had to find higher ground or something to that effect. Like, it's like, okay, you could fight the were rats here, but you need to find higher ground. Now, again, at 14th, 15th level, you're telling them it is a little bit railroady,
Right.
but then I'm saying, okay, so you have to give me 3 skill checks, what you're going to do in this next turn before you're overtaken by these um, creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So on one player could say, okay, I'm going to use athletics and climb up the wall. I'm going to use survival and put some pitons, or I'm going to use sleight of hand and put some pitons in the wall and anchor myself. And I'm going to be in a ready action to start shooting arrows.
Okay.
And everyone sort of has to give a 3-step skill check that they need to do. And then when you roll it, then you get to change. Well, you know what? You got up there and your piton's not holding.
Yeah.
So then the action starts where those skill checks end up.
Okay, wait. So let
So
me stop you real quick. So were you saying if I have a party of 5, are you saying that each person says what they're going to do before I let them roll to see how it comes out narratively? That's
correct.
interesting. I have not done it that
Correct.
way before. Okay.
They have to say what skills their player character is going to do, what they're going to do. Yeah, I always like to ask players outside of the rule, well, what is your character going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to ask them and then say, then as the DM, I say, okay, this would fit into intelligence under this and this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this fits under dexterity, under sleight of hand, like the one I did with the mountain climbing. This is going to fit under athletics, and it's going to fit under sleight of hand for maybe even survival.
Mm-hmm.
You could have 3 skill checks there. And maybe if one of them failed, then as the DM, you set them off on that action. Now you have them looking for a book, so then you have a location.
Mm-hmm.
So then think about, things going on in that location that they may have to confront or deal with.
Mm-hmm. I'm
And
just
then it's letting
curious.
it's
I'm still trying
letting
to wrap my brain around. So when I do skill checks, it's always like a one at a time. They narrate, they roll. They narrate, they roll, and then I. But you're
no. So
saying
what
they're
so
all
what you're going
doing
to
it
say is they're
once.
going to narrate 3, like I said.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that thing I just said. So the
Yeah.
guy's going to climb the hill. Let's
Uh
be
huh.
more specific.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is going to be an athletics check. Um, the next one is going to be, you could even say, an acrobatics check to climb up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be a sleight of hand to build this uh, post up at the top or somewhere up the cliff.
Okay.
Then you have them roll all 3 skill checks.
Okay.
All right. So now the first skill check, it's going to depend what the first skill check is, right?
Right. Right.
So if it's really low, it's like, you know what? You're having a lot of trouble throwing your grappling hook up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that person's already stuck before they're even trying to get up there. Now, if they roll a 20, they were able to grappling hook.
Okay.
Now the second roll, right? Now is this dexterity to climb up. Well, you know what? You get your grappling hook up there, but you only get halfway up the rope. What does he get on the roll?
Yeah.
He gets a 20 on the roll. You get all the way up the rope. He gets a 1 on the roll. You know, you slip on the rope on your way up.
Right.
So even though they told the whole story based on the rolls now, what actions are going to actually come to fruition within the story? Now, again, you roll a 20 on the athletics check to throw the grappling hook. You roll a 20 on the acrobatics check to climb up the rope. Now you're up there. Now you got to roll to now you're making the roll to secure yourself.
Right. But so what do you do if, okay, so the person who is doing the grappling hook, they fail their check. The next person already said they were going to climb, but they can't because the rope's not up there. How do you adjudicate that, their role, if they have no rope to climb?
They're going to have to change their first action in their narrative, right? Like if
Okay.
somebody can't, and again, everybody goes by initiative.
Right. So that's where I was like, okay, that's interesting because that's why I usually do it one by one because their actions will change depending on what happened to
Well,
the
think
person
think about it,
previous.
but again, think about
Yeah.
it in a cinematic, like the movie, where the
Right.
barbarian gets up and does everything the freaking barbarian is going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's really the way action happens. It doesn't happen like initiative.
Right.
Initiative is just a
A tool.
tool,
Yeah.
you know, to run that. In fact, I just watched let me check my history here. I just watched what's the name of those guys? I don't want to promote them.
Doom Patrol?
D&D Logic.
Okay.
No, D&D Logic.
Yeah.
And these guys like dress up and do videos as 5e characters and then they illustrate how bad rules as written look in reality.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. This barbarian is having this fight and everybody's taking their turn. The barbarian's just like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why is everyone taking turns? Why don't I just run up and slam everybody with my 6 attack? And it's the same thing when there's a cleric in the room and they roll a 2 on initiative. Are you really going to go through everybody's initiative first, even though there's a priest praying in the back of the room?
Yeah.
You know, that's what the ref is for. So,
Interesting.
I lost my train of thought. So again, that's where the 3 rolls come in. And yeah, that person's rope didn't work. So now that other player who didn't have a turn now has to redo their choices,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They have to rethink what the hell they're going to, oh, now I'm going to, and they may have to reset all 3
Yeah.
based on the person in front of them. Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. And then have them roll all 3 dice.
All at the same time.
First, also all
Yeah.
at the same time. So then you know how it's going to lay out. So everyone knows how it's laying out.
I mean, that could be really fun.
And
I'll
it's
have to
and,
give it a try and let you know how that goes.
and again, it's like you said. I think the important thing for high level characters is to sometimes act like a character without using something in the rule set.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes you feel like a character, not the rules.
Right.
It was kind of important.
Yeah.
And then get off the screen and find a McDonald's. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but well, yeah, if you're not playing Adventure, we should play Moonlander. All right, folks. Well, it looks like we're about that time where we're going to hit an intermission here. I wanted to check the chat and see. Okay, we've got some people talking about
Does
your
anybody
example.
anything we didn't answer in the chat? Because I'd love to be able to answer people live. That's like so cool.
I know it is. I'm trying to go through.
That's all right. We double check.
For those in the Philippines, I'm curious what time it is. I should know, but I can't do the mental math right now.
Gosh, that's a couple hours
It's
off.
like
Man.
17 hours, I believe. 16, 17 hours off. So if you're still online, let me know what time.
All right. So remember, folks, when we come back from break, we have the visit to the doctor's office. We're going to get on our main topic, Druids, which I'm super excited. And again, man, you write a lot for show notes, man. You're like this mega. She's like writes a thesis for show notes. It's freaking crazy.
Well, like I said, we don't have to touch on everything. I just wanted to be over prepared.
And I am very intrigued. Your weekly world building. You've taken some stuff
Yeah.
from our input I see from our Facebook folks. So if you're listening and you
Yeah.
saw our ad and you commented, we're ready to give. We have some folks here we're going to be talking about. I may have been commenting back to you on Facebook Live, but Giddes has been preparing answers for you here on the show. So hopefully you're tuned in. I'm very excited.
Me too. All right.
All
We'll
right.
see you in a little bit. Hey there. Are we back? Did I do it too soon? Uh-oh. I can't hear anything. Hold on one second. Is that just me?
That's me.
Hey.
That's me.
Oh,
That's
there we
me.
go.
That's
Okay.
all me because I didn't get a time. So I was busy with the Cthulhu is running around here. So
Whoa.
I got caught up. I didn't even get my drink yet.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I might have done that too soon. I don't know. I was
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
for the
You
cue.
you also did not give me a time. So then I was messaging you how long, and
Oh, I didn't see it. I'm so sorry.
yes, that's okay. That's okay.
Podcast level 1. So, all right. Well, we are going to lead into our topic of the night, our hot topic. I just want to check the chat here real quick. Um, oh, okay. We're talking about initiative here in the chat. All right. Well, so last week, or no, sorry, it wasn't last week, but it was in a previous podcast that we were on.
Wait, are you following your schedule?
I am
I'm just
following my
checking.
notes.
Are you
Why?
following your notes?
Yes.
Just checking because the doctor's office is next.
No,
Just
you're
checking.
right.
Just check. I mean,
I
I
missed
got.
it. You're right.
You're the one that was moving the Google Doc around on me, so I had to make sure it didn't move and I hadn't
Nope.
refreshed or something.
Nope.
Okay.
That's all me. Like I said, I'm level 1. I'm learning.
She
Lots
cut
of
me
things
out
to
of my
keep track
tea.
of.
She cut me out of my tea. Now she's cutting me out of my segment.
I'm so
I see how
sorry.
this goes.
Yep.
I see
Nope.
how this goes.
I'm new. Sorry,
All right.
folks.
All right.
Doctor's office. Let's go to the doctor's office, please, because I love
Well,
the stuff that you come up with.
okay. So we were going to talk about Druids tonight anyway. She was leading into our big story for tonight was we had priorly talked about Druids. And like I said earlier, we successfully had a really cool Facebook post about Druids. I did mention that to you. I don't know if you noticed.
I did
It
see
took
it.
off. It took off one day, but
Hmm.
then like it just sort of flubbed. I kind of feel like it was almost as if the algorithm died,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. It was like a lot of hits, and then it kind of died.
Hmm.
But we got a lot of feedback, and I was like, okay, so what can I do in the doctor's office, sort of supplement what we're going to talk about with Druids? And I thought about the shillelagh
Oh,
would
okay.
be something from reality in the world of magic, real magic, or from reality. And I thought I'd ask you, what do you know about shillelaghs
Oh, man.
from reality?
Okay. Man, this is one of those things I'm going to be really embarrassed to admit because I know it's an item in D&D. It's like a weapon you can use in D&D, but I
Okay.
feel like, and maybe this is just me, it's one of those items that you just bypass because you read the description and it sounds very boring. It sounds like you can't do anything with it. I know that I have bypassed it going, the name's great. I don't know what this thing does. I'm not going to do it.
Okay, interesting. Now, I know reading from a lot of people mentioned using the shillelagh as one of their druidic weapons. I think it's one of those additional bonus kind of things, or it's
Yeah.
a magical weapon. I'm not that familiar with it in the rules as written. But from the magical world, it sort of has a few interesting backgrounds and features um, as opposed to magic.
Okay.
So that's what I thought was kind of interesting. Again, another thing that they've sort of grabbed into the D&D world as part of a druid. But let's talk about it. Actually comes from the Gaelic or Irish region. The term originally dates back to Romans occupying the area and referring to the Celts in the area using weapons. It was like a root word, shalalagus, because everything
Right.
Latin root ending, whatever. And I believe at the time when the Romans encountered the tribes in that area, the UK, they were using long sticks with thorns and things. And I
Okay.
found it very interesting because, yeah, they didn't have like real weapons. They didn't, manufacture weapons, but the stick was sort of like the weapon of choice there. And then, of course, they had all these weird sticks with extra parts on them or thorns or so that's where it became not just calling it a stick in the Latin root word, it became more than just a stick. And then shillelagh grew into that word grew being and started being used by that culture
Mm-hmm.
um as
Because I feel like if you use the word stick, it just doesn't sound very intimidating, right? I'm going
no
to hit you
it
with my
doesn't
stick.
it doesn't it doesn't and then what's interesting later on you go in I guess it would be I always get my centuries and time periods mixed up. So it'd be 18th century. Um, you have like the gentleman duel, 6th, 17th, 18th century. The gentlemen used to duel with the guns.
Yeah.
Over like women or it was like serious stuff, right? And I guess in Ireland, there was this push at some point, and they used to have sword fights and sword fight duels too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Predating that 1600s. So at some period in the 16, 1700s, they switched over to instead of using swords and weapons to using shillelaghs.
Okay.
And they became gentlemen's weapons of choice to fight things out over a discrepancy. So you would come and fight it out with your shillelagh, which I thought is really cool. And then from there, it grew into different sizes. And then starting to read about it, the actual people that grow and make them and wooden staffs that are made and grown and how they try to wrap them around wires so they can get a spiral growth pattern. And
Thank you. That's what I was about to ask was how do these people make them, right? Because,
yes,
okay.
the people actually grow plants so that they get specific shapes and sizes and knots where they want them, and it takes years to grow things. The whole thing just blossomed into this big thing outside of rules is written.
So
Kind of
cool.
really neat, really thing. And again, when we talk about Druids, you can see the connection to nature,
Right.
growing plants and taking care of plants and like specifically growing them so they're like the right shape and size for a weapon.
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, just knowing that, boy, I kind of wish that was in the PHB now. If it was, I missed it. But yeah, the description was so bland. I'm like, why would I want to do that? But if I had a description like that, I could definitely lean into that with role playing and really come up with something that is a shillelagh that is meant for my character that was grown, to look like such a way and describe it like that. That sounds fascinating. I mean, and the
well,
years to make one, right? Like they couldn't have been cheap, I would think, in that time
here we go.
period.
Here we go. A wooden club or quarterstaff you are holding is imbued with nature's power. For the duration, you can use spell casting ability instead of strength for an attack and damage rolls for melee attacks using that weapon. The weapon's damage die becomes a D8.
Mm-hmm.
The weapon also becomes magical if it isn't already. The spell ends if you cast it again or if you let go of the weapon. So again, it's a good druid. I don't have a magical weapon. I'm
Yeah.
going to use my shillelagh. Uh,
But yes,
but yeah,
the
that's
description, other than the mechanics, there's no real good description for what a shillelagh is.
right. So
Yeah.
again, druids sort of have this openness to like, how can I incorporate the plant or the wooden club or quarterstaff instead of just making it a wooden club or quarterstaff? You can really give
Yeah.
it some character.
Yeah. I mean, you could even talk about the different types of wood that you would
Yep.
use.
Yep.
I mean, there's so much you could do with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
What I feel like that's a wasted opportunity from from Wizards of I'm gonna shit on Wizards of the Coast.
Well, no, now I'm thinking now I'm thinking we have the supplement. I always say his name wrong. The Logener's Cookbook,
Uh-huh.
where it's a druid
Oh, that's right.
um, who puts the potions together. Maybe he has a special plant book for growing shillelaghs.
Yeah.
It's something we can get working on. I like that idea.
That is
Kind of
really
interesting.
cool. Yeah.
All right, so that's our lead in to the
That
big story,
is
which
our
you were
lead
going to cut
in.
me out of my doctor's
I'm
office.
so sorry. I'm
She wanted to
bad.
get rid of. You want to get rid of all of us, don't you?
No, I
That's the real
don't.
truth. You're getting
Well,
rid of me and Grom,
that's my master plan is I just do it but with a sweet face and a smile so no one suspects me.
and we're all gone. We're all disappeared.
I
We're
will
all
run
ghosts.
everything. but
We're all ghosts.
yeah, okay. So, thank you for
Druids,
that.
druids.
Yes. So, we
So
talked
I'll
about it.
start. Let me start because you have the old Gronyard start here. The Druids appeared as the original Greyhawk supplement in 74.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I don't know what your source is on that. I'm thinking there was an article in Dragon magazine about it.
Well, I will
I
openly
don't
admit this is all from Wikipedia.
Yeah, I think there was a Dragon magazine, and Dragon magazine really was the forerunner to a lot of the stuff that they don't get any credit for. A lot of the writers, again, this we're talking about at that time period when people like sort of went off and then stuff came back and then was put into books.
Yeah.
So again, originally in the supplement in 74, it might have been in a Dragon magazine before then.
Right.
Um, Eldritch Wizardry supplement in 76, and then in the first player's handbook.
Yeah.
I love the fact that at higher levels in your campaign that only certain amount of characters could be a druid at a certain level. So there could only be one druid in your campaign at, let's say, 10th level. If there were two druids and one reached that level, they would have a fight.
Yeah.
And usually it was fight to the death because, again, 1E was about getting killed.
So is this more
Um,
like a Highlander, like there can only be one kind of a
yes,
thing? Okay.
yes. And monks were the same way. Now, we also played it where you could yield and go down a level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we also played that way, I know, with our group. I think it was monks and druids and assassins in 1E all held individual positions at certain levels. And again, I think that was part of the game to enhance the campaign. As you know, who was the greatest assassin at the table? Who was the greatest monk at the table?
Mm-hmm.
And they used to have those campaign sessions or those scenario sessions where it was player versus player run by the referee, which was another part of the game that I don't ever think got a real start.
What do you mean,
And if
player
someone's
versus player?
yeah, that never really, I don't think that ever really got taken off because someone always runs away very butthurt and
Yeah.
very cry because their character got killed by someone else. Someone outsmarted them, or they just got beat by initiative.
Yeah.
Um, so that was early Druid. And then you go into, I mean, the 2E Druids is pretty much the same. It was always an extension of clerics. They always, had their spells the same rate as clerics.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a druid handbook when they, were running out of people wouldn't buy books because people were too busy playing and didn't need to buy anything and were designing their own druids and having fun. They came out with their druid's handbook.
Yeah. Which,
um,
if I had been buying books back then when it was 2E, I would have totally bought that.
well, no, and again, that's when again we talk about when I do the magical Q&A, that there was their attempt to really start going outside and like how far outside can we put real stuff into the game.
Yeah.
They really tried to do that at the end of 2E. They weren't sure where the game was going. So they sort of left a lot of nice loose ends there. That's why those books are pretty still highly valued because they're not rule set based. They're more written fictionally.
Informational. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, more fictionally written, especially the monster ones,
Yeah.
which came with maps and, could still be used in a 5e like that.
Yeah.
Bang, right in there. Yeah. I don't know much about 3 moving into druids through the next ages. Do you want to comment about that, or?
I mean, I didn't play when it was 3E. I started at 3.5, but some of the notes that I pulled was that, they kind of started. What's the word I'm talking about? They moved the alignment away from having to be neutral, which I think was a big thing in the older editions. For being a druid was, nature
Right,
is a
right.
neutral thing, but they kind of started moving away from that and allowing you to kind of look at, other alignments. Um,
And
let's
I guess what
see.
I missed, too, important in 2E was the kits that came out, the accessories, because that's where you had the first shape shifting druids. We talk about when we get into the movie and
Into
people
the
being
shape
like a
shifting stuff, yeah.
shape shifting part of a druid. That would be the first time that kind of came out. Before that, it was always, if a druid did that, is someone thought of it and they had a spell to change themselves or polymorph or something like that. I don't know if that crossed into druid at that time.
Yeah.
And only humans and half elves could be druids.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a big change.
Um,
That probably opened more.
oh, when we moved to 3E, yeah, it definitely opened
Yeah,
up
it
more.
opens more.
Let's see. Yeah, druids also gained the
Could change
ability to
into
have
elementals in 3.5.
yep. They could change into elementals. In 3E, I think
Ah,
they had opened up, you can have a special animal companion. Um, let's see. What else? Yeah, so oh, and they were limited though to only a single animal shape in 3E.
okay.
Which so they're getting into the wild shaping thing right over there, and then with 3.5, not much changed other than what do we have here?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, you mentioned the changing into elementals.
Nothing.
Animal companions are more defined, and then 4E. I don't have much information on 4E other than what I grabbed online because I never played it. Did you?
Well, I think the big thing out of 4E, I haven't played it, but the big thing here is that all druids have wild shape.
Yeah.
So that's when that crosses into the mainstream of play when we talk about it being featured and people misconstruing druids as always being animal changing.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
wild to me going through the 4E information for Druid and like learning about this, primal source and guardians
Hmm.
versus predators. It was wild to me. I almost kind of want to try it just so I learn more about it. So any 4E people out there, I would love to play.
Well,
um
I get the impression again, like I was talking about what they did at the end of 2.5 with those books.
mhm.
Sort of 4E reached that point where they didn't know where to go, and they did a lot of like individual. It looks like home brewing almost.
Yeah.
You could implement this stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah, it kind
Uh,
of reads like subclasses or like subclasses.
right, right. They didn't know
Um
what they were doing. They were having fun.
right, right.
And I think it was like we were talking about, druids when we talk about druids in the real world versus fantasy settings and how, are they animal worshippers? Are they plant carers? What are they really?
Right, right. And then 5E, which is, probably what everybody's most familiar with, is, has opened it up a lot. There's tons of subclasses. And, this is what we're going to be getting into, which is that it feels like wild shape is the unique staple for being a druid. You choose to be a druid because of the wild shape. You don't get that with any other
I,
class,
I,
right?
I do want, yeah, but I do want to say there were a lot of folks out there on Facebook that specifically said, no, I'm not here for wild shape.
Right.
Um, Even though there were a lot that said yes. And I noticed that a lot of people had specific ideas. I don't want to crisscross with your ideas yet from later on in the show.
Right. Well,
Um,
yes, and so that is yes. When I say that wild shape is unique to druids and that's why people pick it, I don't necessarily mean the shape changing so much as the mechanics of wild shape and how if you choose the other subclasses you can those uses of wild shape can be used for other things, as opposed to changing into an animal, right? But
Yeah.
that's the ultimate reason, I think, in 5e why you pick druid, is because you have this either ability to change into an animal or the ability to do other
Or
things.
spores or stars
Right.
or whatever
Flames,
genre, yeah, flames, whatever genre you've picked.
whatever subclass,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, let's see. So yeah, I
The other
guess
the
that
other
kind of
thing, I just while before you go into what people said,
right.
again, magical Q&A, just talking about druids originally. Again, Romans seeing these, nature loving people in the same area we're talking about the shillelaghs from. And again, it was a Latin root word that described the people in that area. Then those people took on that name. And they're also associated with a lot of monoliths and the ley lines in the UK. So that's where a lot of that mystical crossover with nature comes in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's even sort of a crisscross with Druidism and Satan worshiping in reality.
Paganism is what
Yeah,
I usually see it
paganism.
aligned with.
Yeah. And of course, it gets used by mass media. If we're not talking about Dungeons and Dragons, they say druid instead of saying pagan. They
Right.
may say druid a lot. The hooded figures. But there were also druids that were high priests in the Middle Ages that, someone mentioned to me that were advisors to kings.
Yeah, that's actually what I found in some of my research, was that druids initially were just people who were highly intelligent. It
Right.
didn't really cross into nature or anything like that. And somehow over time it crossed into the druids that we know now, which is all, nature and
Well, then
paganism.
I also think about the scribes that would sit and write for the church in their little cells, and I think even they were considered druids. The Gregorian chanters
Yeah.
kind of crosses into the druid area too, and that goes back into what we were talking about using esophageal frequencies. You weren't here for that show, a magical Q&A.
Right.
Those brothers were using tones to try to control people and stuff, so it's
Wow.
very intense. Yeah,
That
yeah, it's
is. So
intense.
bringing up shillelaghs and songs, it's been in the chat for a while, but I want to bring it up. Someone said
Go
that
ahead.
my shillelagh sounds like a Weird Al song. And I
My shillelagh.
right.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's my esophageal frequency right there. All right. So yeah, I
Oh
wanted
my
to.
God, I may have to work on that. Who is that? We'll give them credit, but I may have to record that. That's
What?
that's
Oh, the song.
brilliant. I shillelagh. Oh
I
my
think that was.
God, that's
I think that was Upright Man.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Upright Man's the best. Oh my gosh,
So
that's
yeah, I
great.
wanted to touch on, before we get into the weekly world bidding. I can speak weekly world building. Um, so it was a couple episodes back. Somehow the topic of Druid came up, and you had thoughts on it that we kind of like squashed because we were like, let's save this for a podcast. And I kind of wanted, do you remember
Wait. What
what
are you asking me? You're asking someone with polyneuropathy to remember something. What
Okay,
am I
okay. I wasn't sure
remembering?
if you remembered. So we were having a conversation. Druids came up, and you had thoughts. And your thoughts, to what I remember before we squashed it, was that you feel like druids are just only used for the shapeshifter ability or
Right,
the
right.
wild shape
That's
ability,
how this whole thing came about.
and that's how this
Correct.
whole thing came about. So do you still feel that way? I know we've all kind of reached out to the internet. We've had conversations. Do you want to expound upon how you feel about that?
It's very hard. I want people to smash that follow button. They may not like my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, I think it has to do with the campaign.
Okay.
I think that's my big answer here. I think if I was running a campaign and someone wanted to play a druid, I really have to talk to them about, what is the purpose of their druidness in the campaign. I think that's the thing that bothers me about druids. They're just kind of running around rogue as an animal, not doing it like a church, like a cleric is like responsible to a church.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a druid just doesn't seem to have that kind of responsibility to a place, or and
To
I
like an
feel like
organization.
I feel like I would ground them to like a monolith or something, or they have to like touch the earth, or I feel like I have to really ground that as something much more into the class to make it feel better. The other thing I said people are going to get mad about is I really felt like a lot of the people that got into the shape shifting were just multi-classers. Now, I'm
Right.
not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in an interesting way because people are really making very interesting characters.
Right.
Um, Someone has an underwater druid, which I just thought was a mega cool idea.
Right.
I've always wanted to play some kind of sea elf character, and I never figured out how I could freaking do it or how it would work. Or and I was like, wow, that's a really neat idea. And they talked about, yeah, I change into animals, and what was so great about that description was that was not the focus of their
Character.
thing about changing into fish.
Yeah.
Their thing was about their devotion to the ocean and that part of nature. And that's where I really got this sense of not a medieval druid, writing in a cell, you know, or advising kings and being learned,
Right.
but being dedicated to this one type of nature, or being like a shaman to the ocean, or that part of it really came out for some of the people that were not shapeshifter pickers.
Yeah.
Those people were really background builders.
Yes.
So hats off to those people that were not gang ho on the shape shifting. They were really into like what biome or what background their druid had, and I thought that
Yeah.
was kind of cool.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
see.
That's so that helps me understand because like I said, when we briefly talked about it in the last whatever podcast that was, it sounded like you were just very anti shape-shifting druid, and I wanted to understand where that came from. And that really helps me because you need that like you said, it needs to be grounded in the world that you've built, or and not just some druid who's wandering the land, shape shifting into
Right.
animals for no reason.
Right, and that's what I say. Like, and I'm supposed to, like I said, I'm going into this Icewind Dale campaign,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, I think I'll play a druid, and I'm like, and now it's going to be cold weather. Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to be a cold weather druid? Then I
Yeah.
feel like I'm kind of playing into the campaign a little bit too much. Like, yeah, and I'm going to be a snow owl, and now I'm going to be
Yeah.
where I take a twist on it.
Yeah.
Fire seems obviously like too far to the wrong way, and more of just like counter. Oh well, I'm just going to be able to be hot for everybody, so no one has to worry about survival throws when it gets too cold. Like I don't want to play it that way either.
Yeah.
Uh, I've really been tending towards Circle of the Moon,
Hmm.
which is one of the most powerful shapeshifters,
Yeah.
but not focusing on that ability at all.
That
is
would
is
be
one of
interesting
is one of my thoughts, and I'm going to save my other thought.
for
I'll
later.
go back to you. I've been chatting. I saved my other one. I'm going to get my pens and write it down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Go
so
ahead.
that would lead us then into the weekly world building segment. So, as we mentioned, wild shape is obviously a unique component to being a druid in 5e, especially if you are a Circle of the Moon. Doesn't have to be, but Circle of the Moon is definitely picked a lot for the wild shape ability. And Doc and I both went out to the interwebs, Facebook, Discord, you name it, just to kind of get everyone's take on their creative druid builds, especially if you're not leaning into the wild shaping into animals. For example, my son in my game, he plays a druid, but he rarely uses his wild shape except for utility purposes, like they need to travel somewhere, right? But even then, he really doesn't lean into the wild shape so much as he leans into his spells, and he has crafted his druid to be more of a summoner. And yeah, he can summon like, 5 eagles or whatever to fly everybody around, but he can also summon like, 5 dinosaurs or what have you in the middle of battle. And he also, there's this spell. I have never seen it on any live play. I've never seen it in any other game I've been in, but there's a spell called Summon Draconic Spirit, and it requires some kind of a artifact or art item that has a dragon on it. And then from there, he can use it to cast a spell that summons a draconic. It summons like a small dragon. Not small.
Okay.
Maybe it's large, but it's not like an ancient dragon stat or anything like that. And I found it to be really interesting that he did the research to find this spell, to buy the component that he needed to cast this spell in my world where there is no dragons. And to be able to be a person that can summon a dragon spirit, I just thought it was really interesting. And so I thought, if my son who's 14 can figure something out like that, like people out there in the interwebs, they're really smart. They can figure out really creative builds. So we asked people. And so I wanted to mention a few of the notable ones that I saw. If you want to mention any notable ones that you saw, overall, most people said that they use their wild shape for role play and not for the game mechanics or the combat. There were a few, obviously, that will use it for combat.
That said, that hit
HP.
The hit point crossover, yeah.
Right. But a lot of people seem to say, oh, I use it more for role-playing purposes or shenanigans, like I need to sneak into this place or that place. No big deal. I did also get a lot of the multi-classing that you heard, which, people like to take a level or two in Druid for one purpose or another, or they're in Druid and they multi-class out of Druid into something else. Probably just to grab some key abilities, what have you. But here's a couple that I saw that were really interesting. Okay. These were from Facebook. Kayla, I'm really sorry if I mispronounce anybody's name. Kayla Ostrowski.
I wonder if we're allowed to say people's whole names.
Oh, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't. I'll just say Kayla.
We don't have their, just say,
scratch that out. I mispronounced it.
Say whole names.
Okay.
I don't know.
Kayla. Okay. She mentioned that she had a druid and spelljammer, and she didn't say what type of druid she had. But what I really liked about this leans into the role-playing aspect of it, is that her shape-shifting ability, she would say that instead that it was like her body was decaying, or that she was decaying. All of her summons that instead of summoning animals, she summoned what looked like sloughed off pieces of herself that she could control and mutate.
That's pretty interesting.
Sorry, trigger warning if you're not into body horror, but like it was.
Your trigger warning was way too late.
A little late. Podcaster level 1. But I just thought this was fascinating that you reflavor it in such a way. So all the mechanics are the same. You're just describing it differently. I love it.
That just reminds me of, like, I don't know. It's like Space Plague.
Yeah.
Space Plague. I just think it reminds me of a Doctor Who episode. But anyway, all right. That's really, really interesting.
Right. Okay. Did you want to go over one that you had, or do you want me to?
No, the next one. The next one I actually remember. They have this the myconoid, almost a half myconoid Druid barbarian. I remember reading this one.
Right.
Using fungal form instead of wild shape. So I think that's kind of cool. And once again, crossing into the zombie-esque type.
And I character. Do, if you're watching Last of Us, with the, aren't those also called myconoids, or what are those called? The, if you're watching Last of Us, the spores that go into your brain and can control the body, you can really kind of maybe homebrew or dive deep into that.
You do know that in reality, myconoids can get in, cross cell walls. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, it's fascinating to me because of the horror aspect. I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's my problem, is my body can't get them out of me.
Yeah. Oh, so that's a real horror for you.
Yeah, it's a real body horror for me. So thank you.
I'm
Thanks.
sorry.
Just keep saying that. Just keep talking about it. Okay. Spores. Let's keep talking about spores. Let's go on to the next one. How do you say this in Russian? I mean, you
Oh
put it up there.
gosh, that I
You
don't
didn't.
know. I'm gonna say a hapin. I'm sorry, but I
You
think
don't.
it's in
That,
runes, right? So we can't read
that's
it very well.
perfect. That's perfect.
So this person said they like to break patterns, and they have a druid that is basically, they described it as a tough, strong old chap with a shaggy beard and crazy eyes, but not a tree fucker is what they say. um, so it's a wild forest hermit who peered under the glamorous mask of nature and saw their mind-shattering horrors. Old ones demand sacrifices. Now, I found that really interesting because in my research on druids, I remember seeing somewhere that like human sacrifices were actually a thing, or was it rumored to be
Yes.
a thing?
Well, no, I guess there's some evidence at ancient Stonehenge in fossil records that there was some kind of sacrifice there, or there was dead bodies there or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of crisscrosses into there. Was there human sacrifices? Crisscross, crisscross. Okay.
Okay, so if this was in your world and somebody said, I want to play a druid who needs to do human sacrifices, would that be grounded enough to be in your world?
Yeah,
Yeah?
it would for me.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So that plays for me very well. Yes.
All
I mean
right.
that whole monolith going out in the dark to the dark circle, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
that plays. I mean, and that plays with the druid. Only one druid can be a certain level. Two, only I can be at this power. I will take down my brothers.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So, John, so this goes back to the
Oh, this one's
summoning.
great. Can I say this one?
You
Can I
say
say
this
this?
one, please.
This is great. This guy, he's a shepherd, druid. He likes doing the old herd of cows above the BBEG. And this was the thing I was going to mention. I don't know if John said this. He pranks the dodge the cow game to bad guys, which I think is kind of funny. But the what do I want to say? The world changing powers that druids have during a game,
Mm-hmm.
like causing a flood or disrupting the earth, or there's so many that it's battle map destruction is
Right.
what I love. It's like the map isn't the same. The DM's got to like say, okay, I got to put a note on the map because this is now difficult terrain. Or
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Or they can cause a flood, and the DM's got to figure out how like water washes through here.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the cows. All these cows coming. It's just
Yeah.
it's
They
massive.
just summon, what is it, like a party of cows to just
A herd
fall.
of cows to
Yeah.
fall from the sky at the BBEG, and he's got to dodge cows. Just
Or take, I
yeah,
mean, what's cow damage? How do you calculate falling cow damage?
I don't know. I don't know. And then you got that whole cow poop
Mm-hmm.
versus
Oh,
cow. You keep them
yes.
floating. They could just be pooping. Just so many.
So many things you could do with it. I
There's so
love.
many things you could do with cows in the air. It, you know, it, it's endless, and it just feels like a Pink Floyd. You could have pigs, you could have cows, dogs. It
Mhm.
it goes on and on. How many animals you could float?
Right.
So thank you, John.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
John.
John.
That was my, we should have saved that one for last. That was one of my
No, no.
favorites. Okay. So Brody mentioned that, and this is what I liked about this, what he said. So he built his druid to be a Wendigo. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Wendigo.
Wendigo. And I had to Google it because I've heard the word, but I didn't know what it looked like. And it's one of those very creepy, like almost like a tree person with like a skull mask kind of thing. But what he said, so that's what his character normally looks like. And instead of wild shaping into an animal, he uses his wild shapes to turn into a person so that he can socialize in a city or something, which I thought was a really interesting
That is great. I do
use,
like that.
right?
Yeah.
You know, kind of
Yeah,
a
I do like that.
backwards aspect, and really having to play a non-normal character for the majority of your time, which I thought was really interesting.
Hmm.
Um,
Now, Aaliyah, very planty druid, which
yep.
is, the way I kind of think about it. Using the thing I like is they use their real plant knowledge
Mm-hmm.
as the druid to do stuff to make sure like there's sticky traps or stun an enemy. different pollen things. And this is what I was talking to you about, that skill check thing. This is the kind of player where you could say to her, okay, what are you going to do here? And you get like a whole series of skill checks.
Yeah.
Because they come up with this really creative thing that they want to do. So you make them roll all these different skill checks to put it together when
Mm-hmm.
they come up with something in reality. But I do like that very planty. Um, oh yeah, poisoner and a saboteur.
Yeah.
People seem to think that that's very, very important. Actually, I think the other thing I noticed out there, I wanted to mention folks that have shared art on Facebook. I have put all the art and figures that were painted and things like that all on our Discord. So if you're a Facebook follower and you want to kind of crisscross with everything going on, check out our Discord. We have some cool art got shown up. And the one picture I was a, is it, I guess, star druid, constellation druid. I'm saying the wrong thing. Um, Constellation, right?
I
Um,
think so. Yeah. Circle of the
uh,
Stars? Yeah, I don't know.
Circle of the
Yeah.
Stars. So when I read the rules as written, right, there's these abilities like you can be archer, and they reminded me of the zodiac signs.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought, okay, you get this shape as the zodiac sign. So you come out and you're the archer or you're the, but when that person did the art, it was more just their body was filled with stars,
Mm-hmm.
more like Captain Universe in Marvel Comics. Um, and I see it could be two different things because you could have that constellation shape as more of like a two-dimensional figure that your druid takes, which I think is kind of
A
interesting.
two-dimensional? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Interesting.
imagine if your shape was actually just these points of light and
Yeah.
no human form.
Yeah.
And it is an archer or it is, and then I thought that's where the creativeness can come in too, because you could make it into other things than just the zodiac signs,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, dragon or whatever, and they would be just points, make it a little more abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I saw that picture of their Captain Universe type druid, it made me think of what if you went way the other way and abstracted your druid to actually be just a starry form.
Yeah.
Even at night, he could be standing on top of a hill and people would mistake him for stars,
Oh my
right?
gosh, I love that.
Be like a bat signal or something.
Oh, I love that. See, so
Kind of a neat
this
idea.
perfectly leads into the actual world building exercise, which is I thought we could, now that we've gotten a few ideas from people on the internet, we could take a couple minutes and see if we can come up with some other creative builds. And I want to tack on to what you just said with the circle of
Go
the
ahead.
stars and being, made of stars or what have you, but having the backstory tied into like a nautical navigation aspect because you need the stars to navigate at night. Or it didn't even have to be nautical, really, right? You could do it on land too.
No, that
But
makes I like it. I like it
but
nautical too.
that way you can build that character out and have more of a backstory and a purpose, like you said, grounding for the character.
And that also could give that character that knowledge base we were talking about. Maybe that player is the keeper of the maps
Mm-hmm.
of the world and stuff,
Yeah,
and knows
cartography.
where. Yeah, it could be that end of the player spectrum. Um, we talk about 1E. There was a mapper and a caller.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt roles worked very well in the game. And I found even in my Ravenloft campaign, we had a note taker, and everyone always referred back to the note taker.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a cartographer, someone who's in charge of all your maps. And that could be the druid as part of that player character's
That
role.
that sounds like so much fun. I don't
No,
know. Maybe that's just
seriously.
me, but collecting maps and trying to like draw out
Yeah.
the yes. Oh, I love that as an
This is a
actual
great this is a great
job.
show. I think there's so many cool things when I'm doing this show. It's so cool. All right.
Oh, so
Uh,
any other ideas that you
I
could
loved
build out off of?
I love the aquatic druid that came up in the Facebook post.
Mm-hmm.
Um
So when you say aquatic, I just want to understand: is that like one of the races? Like I can't remember the races that are like they live in the ocean, or is it
Okay,
just
they
that they
did.
are
I don't remember that they specified what race. That's why I'm bringing it back up as in
right?
the world building section. I don't remember
Yeah.
what race they specified. They just specified that their druid's focus was the ocean,
Yes. Okay.
and that the ocean, and that they became ocean creatures. Hey, they could just become ocean creatures just to go hang out in the ocean,
Yeah.
not as part of the game, maybe part of that third party. I mean, that third tier of outside play. Like I'm Little Mermaid. I'm gonna
Right.
go back and swim with my school of fish.
That's what. Okay. Adam came up with it in the chat. Merfolk. I was
Hey,
trying to
Adam's
think
here.
of
What's
it.
up, buddy? Adam, what's up?
I couldn't think of the name. Merfolk. I think there's also. Are they called? It starts with a T. Like not Titan. Maybe not Titan. It's something else. But I thought it starts with a
Tritons,
Tritons. Thank you.
Tritons,
Yes,
Tritons,
that are also
and then
like
you
fish folk.
and then you had the evil Moreau,
Hmm.
which are merfolk that have been turned evil by Demigorgon, and everyone's seeming to love the evil characters. So
Yeah.
why not mutate one of them? But they only have a fin, so I don't know about walking on land. But again, maybe they use their wild shape to become something that can get on land,
Yeah.
and be secretly this demon Moreau that lives in the ocean, that's
Kuato is
protecting you.
another one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so talking about playing evil and as a druid, I've been wanting to do this. I dipped my toes in it a little bit with my homebrew campaign, but I would love to run an entire campaign where the focus is evil druids. Not for the players, but that's the BBEG. Somehow the story is this world is being destroyed or what have you because of evil druids. And considering all the choices you have now with druids, like you could do a lot with that for a
Oh yeah.
BBEG. Like that, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Another thing I've always wanted to do, if we're going to touch on evil stuff, is we talked about druids, and whenever I talk about druids, my brain kind of defaults to the Celtic, you know,
Right,
type of
right.
druid, right? But I like to try to think outside of that and go, what about like a voodoo priestess as a druid, right? Like something that's a little bit more necro kind of, I don't know. Again, maybe it's just my love for
Well,
evil horror
again,
things.
when you talk about a voodoo priestess, remember we talk about voodoo dolls were actually carved from wood. But again, at that point, to me, is that a warlock? Like, I feel like that's where 5e has all built so many classes
Right.
that it's really creatively which way you want to play it based on the powers.
See, and that's the thing is I feel like it would be for me if I were to play it, I would lean more into the quote unquote nature aspect of it, right? Like
Right.
tossing bones, or reading the bones, reading tea leaves, um, having shrunken heads, even if they're animal heads, who knows, like
See,
that
a
kind
lot
of
of that though,
aspect of it.
yeah, but a lot of that too sounds like necromancer,
Yeah.
which is, I believe, is a new class in Eberron, kind
Oh,
of going into that whole, you are talking about kind of a different thing, but I see how it fits into that
right.
blood sacrifice we were talking about with the druids.
Right.
Um, another thing, I'm sorry, crisscross back to where we were. Someone was talking about druid in Ravenloft and in Barovia. And I don't know if you're familiar with that setting at all. Um, but in that setting, there's the Wizard of Wines. And of course, Strahd has actually cursed the land. So someone was talking about playing a druid in Barovia because you're trying to bring the land back.
Yeah, I can see
Uh,
that.
so it's a really, really cool kind of just a great role to play if you're a Ravenloft fan out there, to play that whole druid, and then they're evil druids. So you have that, you can be the good druid in Barovia, and there's this whole arch enemy to kind of face. So if you're out there thinking about, hey, what do I want to play in Ravenloft, and I want to try something with a new
Different.
twist,
Yeah.
um, a druid is one that I know a lot of people mentioned that too in the Facebook chats,
Yeah.
as we were trolling. Ah,
Yeah, no,
I,
I'm like my jaw's dropping because people are coming up in the chat with like really great ideas. Now, do you remember, and I'm going to not remember exactly which movie. It is either the original Clash of the Titans or it's the original the other movie that came out just like that around the same time with the Golden Fleece. Can't think of it.
oh well, no, you're talking two different. You're talking
Right.
two very different movies.
But
Golden Fleece is Harryhausen,
there was one
right?
of those movies where they had bones, I thought, that they tossed into the ground and out of the ground grew skeletons.
No, actually, that was a Harryhausen.
Was
He
it?
takes they take teeth. I think it's
Teeth.
Hydra teeth. They take
Yes.
Hydra teeth. I think it's Hydra teeth, and they throw in the ground, and they pop up as skeletons. That's an old Harryhausen.
Okay, so
That's
someone
a
mentioned in the
really old
chat
Harry.
knuckle dice that grow into skeletal creature shapes, and that's the first thing that my brain came up with is I'm now going to play this voodoo priestess druid who can summon skeletons or something. I don't know. I'm gonna have to build this out. I'm very excited about this.
Well,
Um,
and it's funny you say that because in my Ravenloft campaign, I have the one player is playing a sorcerer that has all these undead things and has been animating skeletons everywhere they go.
yeah,
So she has this army. So it's all of the same thing, only playing it under the guise of a different class. You can kind of come at it at a different angle,
right, right.
looking at it either way. So other creative druids, again, um, a specific biome type of druid. I love the idea of playing some kind of carnivorous forest, Native American, like sort of outside of the town, like doesn't speak languages that
Like
everyone else
tribal,
knows.
kind of.
Yeah, very tribal, comes in and comes
Mm,
out of the rain, and then joins.
okay.
I think that works kind of really well.
I love
As
playing a tribal character for sure.
Yeah, um, and then of course there's the Saint Francis.
Okay. Now, how
You
does
play the Saint Francis is the holy person that just animals love them, like Cinderella, or
Okay, I was just about to say Disney princess,
Disney princess,
using your
right?
summons, but instead you're summoning like little birds and little mice instead of raptors and
Right,
eagles.
right, right. Now that's now I'm going to say while we're talking about this, that's another one that I'm pitching. In Enron, we are releasing different races that are
Hmm.
slightly mutated, and we haven't released our gnomes yet. There's wild magic gnome, uh,
Oh.
which actually builds up wild magic energy, and then they pop anytime during the game, which is kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
But I was also pitching the idea of a um, country gnome or a forest gnome or field gnome.
Mhm.
At each level, it would gain a creature, a
What do you
forest creature. So, like at first level, you would have a mouse friend, and then at second
Okay.
level, you could have two mouse friends.
Okay.
The third level, you get three mouse friends, or you could have two mouse friends and one raven. So then, by the time you were 20th level, you would have 20 little critters. Now, if you just wanted to be a sewer gnome, you could have 20 rats, as your army, or you can pick different ones along the way. You can have a fox and a.
That's like the total opposite of a Disney princess and I love it.
I think that'd be kind of a
It's a
cool
sewer
little,
a sewer king.
yeah, sewer kings. Just like in what's that? For Christmas. Oh God, I can't think of it.
Nightmare Before Christmas?
No,
No.
no, the
What are we
ballet. God, the ballet
The
with the
Nutcracker?
rat king. Yeah, the Nutcracker with the
Okay.
rat king. The rat king.
Oh,
But anyway, sorry. Sorry. I digress again.
so you had
So
said something like
Druid.
a forest gnome, and you took it in a different direction than I had expected.
Yeah, they gain animals. They gain animals at each level, like a druid, like Saint Francis of
Right.
Assisi. They gain your little animals along the way.
So, and maybe my ideas are more like backstory based and not necessarily mechanics based, but I had thought of playing a druid that's like kind of a Johnny Appleseed type character that has to roam the land and replant the trees or like you said, kind of like the Barovia thing that would also play
Right,
into
right.
it,
No, I like that. I like
regrow
that.
the earth.
Now,
Um,
of course, I make a comment out there. You did not put it in the list, so we'll put it out there. There is, of course, the ever popular sweet leaf smoking druid. who worries about his herb. There's a few people that mention that their druid is just kick back, lay back, smoking the herb.
Yep, I
So
did
I
catch
love
that
that.
late today. I did not add that in my notes. That's
So
so funny.
that's definitely and that is the druid most of my friends say I should be playing, but I kind of want to spice it up a little bit. I'm still, and again, he's going to be in the cold, so I can't have the stoner druid in the cold. It'll just be everything will be a bummer, you know. I just everything will be a bummer.
Man,
So
okay.
yeah. Anyway,
What
still,
if
I
oh
still
man.
like moon. I still like in the moon because the moon's out at night, and like I said, I'm not playing it on a shape shifting term. And then I'm even thinking maybe from another biome. I'm secretly there, and I'm only telling the DM.
Mhm.
That might be kind of intriguing too. Where everybody doesn't know, they know I'm there, and I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I
Right.
got brainstorm some more
So,
ideas for that specific campaign, but I can't think of one right now.
can I ask you?
Go ahead.
I haven't been on the podcast until a few episodes ago, but have you read or are you a fan of the Wheel of Time series?
Oh, I know of the Wheel of Time,
Okay.
but I can't say I'm like could quote it or anything like that. I am familiar with it.
Okay. So
That's
the
classic.
in the original town, oh, I can't remember the name of the original town. How dare me? In the first chapter of the book,
Okay.
they have wisdoms there. Do you remember the wisdoms? Nynaeve.
No, no. Go
Okay.
ahead. Just tell the story.
Okay, so the wisdoms are like they're wise women. You know, women kind of rule the culture, but it's their wise women, and they kind of like can read the weather, and that's what they're known for is that they can read the clouds and read the weather and predict what's going to happen next, and of course they can also do magic and other things, but that's kind of what they're known for. And so I thought it would be interesting to build a druid. I mean, obviously, you have control of elements and weather with your spells, but to really lean into the backstory of like, I can read the weather, I can read the clouds, you know, and if I were playing it, I would use it to make like predictions that are either false or not. Like, who knows? I could then be leaning into like Ghost and being the person who can't really read clouds, but I'm going to pretend I can read clouds.
No, I think it's a great. I think that's a great idea. And you're talking about that. I think of druids also crossing into the prophets, like Moses parting the Red Sea.
Right.
You could play a druid very much like, yeah, I have these big plans. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
I
literally, yeah, you can
have to
part the
lead these
water.
people. I have
I
to
can
lead these people.
I can
Or
make
you,
water out of a rock. You know, like
once again, we were talking about giving that druid like a real purpose. Hey, give a druid a bunch of people that start following them. Maybe
yeah.
that's we were just talking about a purpose. Maybe that's it right there. Bang.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kind
thank
of a
you. That
neat
was
idea.
Edmonds Field, Two Rivers. Thank you, Adam. I hate myself that I couldn't remember that. Um, let's see what else. I wanted to
Hey,
ask you.
Is Adam still running games at his local library? I want to. Inquiring minds want to know. Do we
Yep.
need to pitch his library games? Because
He,
if he's on, we'll pitch his games at his library, local library. You know, if you're chatting, we'll pitch you.
I think he's still catching up on Wheel of Time, but
Okay.
while we're waiting for his answer, so the other idea I had was leaning into like crystals, crystals, gems, you know, chakra, that kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I this was brought up in a magical Q&A. And this is also something in the real world that doesn't get talked about, but using crystals or whatever be really cool.
Wouldn't that
I
be a
think that
cool
would be neat.
druid, right? To kind of
You
lean
know,
into that and aligning people's chakras.
I think you may have given me my idea. Maybe my dude just got like
Oh,
a pouch of crystals.
there
Maybe
you go.
that's the way to go and stay with Earth
Yeah.
and the frozen Earth. And the Earth has been frozen and the Earth is still underneath the snow, kind of thing.
Yeah. There you go.
And
There's your
interesting.
connection.
Now, is there an Earth druid like to the ground? I know there's fire,
Oh
right, and
gosh.
water.
Well, they have the different circles, and I know that.
See, and that's where for me, I think
Mhm.
old 1E, 2E, you pick a druid and then you just start specializing by picking your spells.
Right.
You don't worry about picking a race.
Yeah.
Like that's where the game has kind of changed
Yeah.
uh very, very much so. But again, people love it. So I am amazed at some of the builds that I read about
Isn't it
in
fantastic?
the past couple. Yeah, I mean, the amount of thought that goes into it is incredible. Wait, there was ah someone in Dungeon Studios, Barry the movie demon, who's been a guest on the show. His druid is mixed with a monk of the dead. But anyway, he can make a pack of Voltron lions.
What?
I
How?
just I can't say it. I can't. It's like he's got the race, the classes, the multi-classing, the powers. The whole thing goes together, and it's like he can make all these like robot. Oh, because he's also an artificer. He's an artificer, druid, monk of the long dead way. Oh, it's crazy. It's totally crazy.
Yeah.
But and I say crazy, but it's like again the writers, as much as it's to me it makes no sense. They made a rule system where people can really go crazy with making builds. Um, so it's kind of crazy. I saw that there's a new builder for D&D characters on something. I
Yeah.
forget what it is. And people will spend hours upon hours doing it. So someone, what's the one, Forge, where you make the little figures and then you can order them.
Hero
Here,
Forge.
anyway, somebody did all the cartoon characters from the D&D cartoon.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I already stole them and posted it on our Facebook page at Dungeon Studio. So again,
Nice.
like and follow because I'm all over that stuff.
You sure are.
And
But
there's a really cool Snoop Dogg out there. This is the way if you check it out too.
I
Anyway,
need a Snoop Dogg mini.
talking about stoner druids.
Oh my
All right.
god. I need a Snoop Dogg druid. Oh, that's fantastic.
You didn't see my This Is the Way ad?
No,
Oh,
I've been
you got to
so busy.
you got to check it out, man. This is the way.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to look at it. So, okay, so now this is my question to you. So,
Okay.
we've gotten all this feedback from the internet, from our various sources. We've chatted about it. I'm just curious now how you feel about druids. Are you still kind of like, meh, or is it, you feel good about it now?
I'm
I'm just
still
curious.
mad. I'm
You
still mad.
still meh?
I really still mad. I think I'm in a 5e meh though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily druids. I think it was like we were just talking about. I'm really trying to get more inspired for the campaign. Is
Yeah.
is really what I'm thinking about. And the last time I played 5e for length of campaign, I totally went the chaos trickster route, and I really want to play something with some more format.
Yeah.
Um, so again, I think doing some kind of druid, I want to really talk to the DM and see how it works. Because again, he's using this campaign, this module. Um, if there's not going to be some homebrew for my druid to have some buy-in, like we were just saying, he's going to throw some people at me to follow, or if there isn't something built in like Ravenloft for a druid to be part of the scene,
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to play that. I mean, as an experienced, the people say a forever DM. I'm a forever Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I'm always looking to expand my horizons as a player and a DM.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I really want to talk to the DM again, and ground zero it, session zero it, and see what everyone else is doing and how can I really fit in and play better in that game,
Yeah.
to make it a better game for everybody.
Yeah, maybe once you do this, if you're going to do this druid, it'll be interesting to hear about it and see
Yeah.
maybe how your opinion is shaped by it. when you're done with it.
And then I know this guy who's DMing this adventure. I've been playing a while for him now. He's played a few different druids that I've DM'd for him. So I know he knows druids and how they run and their mechanics. So he can really make a better call if it's something he thinks is going to fit the campaign. And then I feel better playing it.
Yeah.
Which again, like I said, that's the type of game D&D is. You've got to be with your DM and your game master. And
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
honestly, that's the best tip ever is just make sure over communicate.
Yeah,
Always.
over communicate. Always, and I like to say that sometimes I seem a little obsessive or I'm going to use the wrong word anyway, but maybe even like impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's how you get it out. That's how you have to express it. That's how it is. I'm going to say autistic.
Okay.
It's sort of like an artistic expression in a way, but get it out, get your feelings out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to express sometimes in that third person player character role.
Yeah, I agree. So I
Well,
wanted
what about
to.
you? What about you? Druids? Are you any play? Are you you're like DMing? There is no druid in your future.
Well,
Is there?
okay, I've played a druid in the past, but that was that was 3.5. I have not. I played a druid in a one shot for 5e, which I didn't really get to use much, so I can't say that I've really felt what it's like to be a druid in 5e. I have ideas.
Okay.
I can't wait to play them. But I just
Now
love the idea of
there
druids.
was an opportunity. Mammoth Factory had a play test, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I can jump in on this game." But it was like 5 minutes before the game started. They didn't get enough people, but it's going to be a puzzle adventure. So I thought, "Oh, I'll play a druid for the puzzle adventure."
Yeah.
But it did not come to fruition, and then it was the next day, and I couldn't make it.
Oh, bummer.
So I almost had a shot.
Yeah.
So I think that would be neat too to try it out, and then I might feel more comfortable.
Yeah, oh boy, do I have characters. And I do tend to lean towards druid when I come up with characters in my brain. But I have yet to play any of them because, forever DM. No, I'm not really a forever. Anyway, but I just haven't had a chance to play them. But I love the nature aspect. So hoping to come around to it.
Well, and again, I think we brought up druids initially, everybody, because the whole movie, and then of course the
multiple shape shifting,
the multiple shape shifting, and then of course the monster shape shifting, and then of course the misimpressions of people that don't play D&D and druids, and thought we'd talk about it. So thank you, Amber, for following through, and again, if you're out there on Facebook or whatever, and you are listening to us now and you saw our ad early, thank you for coming back out and checking us out. That's like super cool.
Thank you. Oh, I also wanted to circle back before we get ready to end this show that it looks like Adam's campaign in the library is over. I wanted to make sure you saw that. You were going to plug it.
All right. All right.
Nothing to plug there, but it's nice to have you here, Adam. So anyway, I just wanted to, remind you all to please like, share, and subscribe us on all our platforms if you can. We're trying to grow. The more we grow, the more we can do, the more capabilities we have. So please share and like and subscribe. Make sure you check out our website to support us, the studio, and all of the products that we have. And you can also find us on Discord. We're really active on Discord. So if you just want a community to hang out with, come find us. We are always on there. Like Doc said, he's there.
I'm always there.
And you can find him, and he is Dr.Pletorius in our Discord.
I'm always there.
All right. So, Doc, you have anything you want to say to end the show?
Well, I'll just go on my regular outro. We don't have a teaser for next week. So we're going to leave everybody in suspense for a surprise show next week. How about that?
Or if you have any ideas, put it in the chat.
Remember, no matter how you start out, you always start out odd. But with a little creativity and effort, you'll end up with the prime advantage.
All right. Thanks, Doc. And I'm going to say, remember, Mondays can be fun days when you're talking nerdy with friends like I talk with Doc. All right, everybody.
And I gotta just say one thing,
Yep.
Grom, like I miss you, good friend.
Ah,
Like good times,
it
role
was,
playing games are just like good times, right? With good friends. So it is sad. We miss you. Uh, come back anytime.
yes, please do. We need the grumpiness. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.